Hi guys, this is the last lesson that we'll be learning in this unit that we're doing, and we're going to be finding the percent of change and the percent of error. So first, our first part is percent of change, and the percent of change just tells us the percent an amount has increased or decreased in relation to the original amount. So we're going to have two amounts, and we're going to find the percent of increase or decrease from it. This is our formula. To find the percent of increase, you're going to put the amount of change, so you're going to subtract the 2 over the original. So you can think to subtract the 2 up here. Okay, last, it's important to note that you should identify each problem as an increase or a decrease. And if it has a negative, that means that you're telling me that it's a percent of decrease. Okay, so let's look at some examples. Part 1, percent of change examples. Find the percent of change from 325 to 390. So if you refer back to the formula that you just had, we're going to subtract the 2. I always do the biggest minus the smallest. 390 minus 325. All over, and you're always going to put it over the first amount, the original amount, what it started out as. And it started out as 325. Okay, so I subtract the 2, 390 minus 325, and I get 65. Still over 325. Now, very, very, very important to note is that now we're going to divide these and change this into a percent. What happens is some kids divide this, and then when they write down their number, they only write down 1 decimal point. Very important is to write down three decimal places. So let's say 65 divided by 325. Now this one only happens to have 0.2. And I wrote this little key for you, and hopefully we'll get to a problem that explains this a little bit better. Now, this is the decimal version, this 0.2. We need to make it a percent, so you move it 2 places to the right, and this means 20%. Instead of moving it 2 places to the right, you could also just say times 100. So on your calculator, you can just type times 100 right away and get 20, and then you know it's 20%. And that's our answer. Now, one last thing to double check is to see if it's an increase or a decrease. It went from 325 to 390. That's an increase. It went up. So our number should be positive. If it went down, we would add a negative in. Okay, let's look at the next problem. All right, what you need to write down here, you don't need to write down the whole word problem, is that you need to write down 7,500 is that when John entered college, that's how much the tuition was, how much it cost, and that it changed, you're just writing down the green, to now when his daughter goes, it's 25,500. So write down that green to represent the problem. Now we're going to subtract the 2. 25,500 minus 7,500 over the original, what it started out as would be 7,500. 500 minus 7,500 gives me 18,000 over 7,500. Divide. I get 2.4. So there aren't 3 decimal places here, so I just write down what I have. Then I'm either going to multiply this by 100 or move it 2 places to the right, and I'm going to get 240%. Okay, it was an increase because it went from 7,500 all the way up to 25,500, so we don't need a negative there. Okay, let's try the next one. $110 sweater, so you're going to write down $110. Change, and is now on sale for $88. Now right away you should notice that this is a decrease problem, So we should make sure that we have a negative in our answer at the very end. And we don't have to deal with it until the very end. So I subtract the 2, 110 minus 88, over the original. Well, the sweater started out at 110. 110 minus 88 is 22, divided by 110 is 0.2. Then I multiply by 100 times 100, or move it over 2 places, and you will get 20%. Now we said it was a decrease, so we're going to add a negative in there. And that's our answer, that it was a discount of 20%, that it went down 20%. Okay, part 2, percent error. Percent error is very similar to percent of change. Basically, it's just the difference between an estimate, so what you've predicted or estimated something's going to be, or measured and compared to the actual value. So please write down what's in the purple box, the amount of error over the actual value, and then we're going to multiply it times 100 to get a percent. Okay, example 1. Ben estimated that he would make $90. So that's our estimated. So you should write down like estimated equals $90. But he actually earned, so let's write down actual, $80. What was the percent of error of his estimate? So now we're just going to follow that purple box, the amount of error. So you're going to subtract the 2 to find the amount of error. 90 minus 80, which we all know is 10, over what it actually is. It was supposed to be $80, so over $80. You're going to divide the 2 and multiply it by 100. So I get, divided by 2, I got 0.125. Move it over 2, or multiply by 100, and you get 12.5%. So he was off by about 12.5%. All right, one more, and then that's it for this lesson. So our estimated weight is 8 pounds, so we guessed that something was going to be 8 pounds, and it actually weighed 6.4 pounds. So we're going to subtract the 2, 8 minus 6.4, over what was it actually, 6.4. 8 minus 6.4 is 1.6 over what it was actually, 6.4. Divide them. 0.25, multiply by it 100, or move it over to 25% error. All right, that's it. Have a good night.